you see two Greek texts?
Yes, yes, yes. Side by side. That's wonderful.
Okay, good. So the one on the left is the G1 text,
Mm-hmm.
and the one on the right is the G2. Um,
Mm.
so the G2 obviously is the one that's longer. The way I remember it is G2 has Tobit's name as Tobith,
Mm-hmm.
Tobith. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like a theta at the end, and then the G1
Yeah.
has spells his name as Tobit, with the
Ah, is
tau.
it? Ah,
So that's another way you can remember it.
that's
And then
interesting.
just looking at like the second verse, you
Mm-hmm.
see that the second verse ends in aser,
Mm-hmm.
but in the second verse of the G2 text, it's
Mm.
longer. So it's aser
Ah.
apizo aludus mon eliu ex aristeron fogor. So
Mm.
so we know that this one is G2 because it has the longer text in
Longer.
general.
Yeah, I see.
Now, I was actually kind of just skimming through the nets, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized that even though G2 is the longer one generally,
Mm-hmm.
actually chapter 4 is longer in the G1, it looks like.
Hmm.
So unless
Interesting.
I somehow missaw that, but it just from skimming through it, but it looks like
Mm.
chapter 4 is longer. So apparently, even though G2 is generally longer overall, there are some
Mm-hmm.
parts of G1 that are longer that are not longer that are apparently summarized in the
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
G2. So
Yes. Yes.
I so both versions are truly valuable,
Mm.
at least in that regard. Now, I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
valuable just in general. I mean, because they're the
Yeah.
versions we have, but
Mm.
they're valuable for that reason too. If you want the fullest text,
Mm.
so um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of interesting.
That is. Yeah.
So yeah, so this is the Göttingen text.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the one that I want to use as we go through it. I have read through the first chapter of both of these versions. I haven't read through the whole book yet in Greek,
Mm.
but I have read through the first chapter. So I mean, this is going to be
Oh,
a learning experience for me. I mean, I
that's
guess for
right.
both of us.
Yes, that's true.
So I thought we could just take it kind of casually and
Yes.
just let people join our journey here
Yes.
with
Yes.
Tobit.
That's good.
So
Yes.
join the
Yeah.
journey. Um, so how do you want to do this, man? Do you want to like read verse by verse and like I read like we read verse one of G1 and then verse one of G2 and talk about it? You want to do it like that?
Yes. 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 Let's do that. Yeah. Let's do
You want
that.
to take turns reading each verse? Like I'll
Uh,
read.
I want to
Do you
leave
want to read
the.
G1 and then you read G2, or do you
I'm not
want me
very
to read
confident
or
about. I'm not confident about my fluency. So.
okay. Well, so actually, hey, funny thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
Mm-hmm.
apparently, the exact pronunciation, if you want to be precise, the
Mm-hmm.
exact pronunciation of different books in the Septuagint were a little bit different than the
Ah,
Judeo-Palestinian Koine Greek pronunciation of the first
that is
century for the New
interesting.
Testament.
Hmm.
So you could be very precise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing some digging, and Ben Cantor on his website, he pronounces the Genesis of the Septuagint a little bit differently than he does with the New Testament. Now, I haven't done the full research on that yet.
Mm.
So at some point, we may end up changing or adapting our pronunciation a little bit to match the way the
Ah.
Septuagint was pronounced in the second century. But actually,
Mm.
for Tobit, see, the thing is, I don't know exactly where, I don't think we know exactly where Tobit was translated and
Mm.
when. Like we know
Right. Right.
obviously it was like somewhere between second century BC, first century AD, but exactly when will determine the exact pronunciation. So I think for
Mm.
now we'll just follow Ben Cantor's pronunciation for the New Testament.
Okay.
Well, I mean, minimally, we know that the apostles, if they were, they were reading it like that. So
Right.
I mean,
Right. Right. At
so
least we know how they
that's
pronounce it. Yeah.
yeah. So that's good enough for now. So we'll do that, but we may be able to tweak it a little bit to be even more precise at some
Mm-hmm.
point. So I'm still working on figuring all that out. It's complicated,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Pronunciation.
yeah. So for the pronunciation, we may be able to like fine tune it at some point, but I'm still working that out. It's very complicated, because it's like
Yes.
because like every decade within the century and it could be different. It could be pronounced a little different, and depending on the exact geographical location, it could be a little
Mm.
different. And so
I
you can be very precise about it. Now the differences aren't major, but if you want precision, yeah, there are some little differences. And so
I guess that's also part of the reason why one is translated as Tobit, the other one is translated as Tobit. I guess it's because like even the Hebrew pronunciation is a little bit different in the accent, a little bit different accent in different region they live.
Could be. Yeah, could be for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's definitely something there. We know that I think we know that if Tobit does in the Hebrew, does Tobit, does that end in a tet or a tav?
Tough.
I don't remember. A tav. Okay.
It
So
has to. Mm.
the tav was a soft T sound.
Mm.
So that's like the. That's very close to the TH sound in English. The.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not all the way there. It's not like so hard pronounced like
Yeah.
the, but
Oh,
it's like a soft T.
yeah.
The.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that, and I think that's part of the problem is like, there's a little bit of ambiguity there. It doesn't exactly correspond to the tau, to the tau and the theta in Greek, maybe. That could be a problem. It could be
That's
the
right.
individual person translating to, and like you said, the region that they're in, there could
Mm.
be a difference there. And
Mm.
also who knows, man, like these texts could be updated. Like there could have been a point in the history of the transmission where it was updated and all
Mm.
the copies we have now using
That's
updated
true.
spelling. That's
Mm.
another thing to think about. It's
That's
possible,
true.
but
That's true.
if that happened, it would have to be, I would imagine it'd have to be very early.
Mm.
Otherwise, otherwise we would expect to see inconsistencies in the spelling. I haven't studied the manuscripts of Tobit very much, so I don't know. There may be some like
Mm.
that, but we did see a glimpse of that in the introduction, right? He talked about the different spellings in the books,
Yes.
but it seems like they're pretty consistent in the manuscript traditions, apparently. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
actually, we don't really have that many manuscripts for Tobit, do we?
That's
I mean,
true.
let's be
That's
honest.
true.
We have like Sinaiticus and Vaticanus and I think Alexandrinus, right?
Right.
And then we
Mm.
have Venetus, I think was the other one, and a few others, some cursive manuscripts or
Hmm.
minuscule manuscripts. So that's something we'll have to look at some point. We'll have to actually look at the
Yeah.
manuscripts themselves and see how they do it.
Mm.
Well, I guess we'll just go with the Göttingen for now for the main text. So let's
Yes.
get
Yes.
started.
Yes.
So I'll read verse one and let's talk about it. So
Okay.
G1 text over here.
Hmm.
Vivlos logon Tobit, tu Tobiel, tu Ananiel, tu Aduel, tu Gavael, ek tu spermatos Asiel, ek tes phyles Nephthalim. So this is the book of the words of
Hmm.
Tobit, of
Hmm.
Tobiel, of Ananiel, of
Mm.
Aduel, of Gabael, who is from the seed of Asiel, from the tribe of Nephthalim.
Mm.
So that's what the G1 says for verse 1. Now G2 says, Vivlos logon Tobith, tu Toviel, tu Ananiel, tu Aduel, tu Gavael, tu Raphael, tu Raguel, ek tu spermatos Asiel, ek phyles Nephthalim. So, do you see any differences between the two versions here?
I think there's one significant.
There is a difference. Yeah, right
Yes.
here, this is a
Yes.
difference. So let me highlight this, make it more clear. I guess
Yeah.
for differences, so here's how I normally do
Mm.
this. In Logos, the green, I normally
Mm.
use that to highlight like a comment if I want to make a
Hmm.
comment. The yellow is for words I want to do more lexical study on. Red is for like morphological
Mm.
stuff, like it's a rare spelling or something. And
Hmm.
then so
Ah,
let's choose blue for textual differences. Let's do
okay.
that.
Okay.
So right here, so this is an addition,
Mm.
well, it's an omission in the G1. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if we take it as the original.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Raphael, Raguel,
Mm.
out of the seed of Asiel,
Mm.
out of the tribe. Yeah, so this is the only
Yes.
difference.
And
G2 has Raphael of Raguel.
yes. Yeah. So I think this addition or well,
G1's
compared to
omission.
the G1 summation, yes. I think this small phrase is very important here because that is where that is because the angel Raphael appeared to Tobit and Tobiah, and I think it is from this genealogy that that people you get that Raphael said that he is sort of like the a kingsman
Oh,
of
that's
his
right.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's such
part of,
a good connection. Yeah,
yeah,
his name is in the genealogy here.
right, right. So I think it's very important because that's how Hebrew people like connect themselves with the family. You usually name a child according to someone after someone who already have that name in the entire family. It's just like in the Orthodox Church. You always names yourself after, like when you get baptized, you always name yourself after a saint or something. It's the same thing. So I think that's the connection here. Although when Raphael actually appeared to them, he didn't say, "I'm Raphael," but like the still the
Yeah.
kinsman, I think the
Well, it was a
connection.
code, right?
Yes,
His name is a code. What did
yes,
he say
yes.
his name was? I guess I forget I forget
I
the name he
may
said,
neither. Yes,
but it
yes,
was a code. It was a code that meant it had to do with his mission. It had to do with
yes.
his mission.
That's right. That's right. We talked about this last time. Yes. And
Yeah,
speaking of code, this first verse is extremely important to tell us who Tobit is and establishes the fact that we should read Tobit as a prophetic work.
yeah.
So take a look at the,
Not only a prophetic work, but also a historical work.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, of course.
just like taking a step back, like
Mm,
thinking about the modern skeptical environment that we live in, right? The modern
mm,
secular Western
right.
world that we're both
Mm,
familiar with.
mm,
People think Tobit is just a story. Like they think it's a
yeah,
fairy tale. They think it's, it was like made up.
yeah,
But they don't give you genealogies like this
that's right.
in their culture if it's a fairy tale. That's the first thing that jumps out to me is they would not. Well, first of all, I don't think I know of any like fairy tale or any like fable or story from the ancient,
Mm,
Israelite Jewish world,
mm,
right? From the Hebrews don't do that. Like they don't write
right.
stories. Like what do we know in their collection of writings that is actually a story?
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to say stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls or stories like Enoch and stuff, but that's
Mm,
all false. That's all fake. Their opinions are false.
mm,
We know that's not true. Because Jude quotes Enoch and so forth. We don't have to go down that rabbit trail now, but the
right.
point is like, from our perspective as believers in the Apocrypha, there's not really any book that they do write that is a proper like fictional story. The fact that they give a genealogy shows you they're intending you to trace his ancestry,
Yes.
to give him to give him how do I say that, credibility, for lack of a
Mm,
better word, so that you know who he is and where he comes from.
yes.
Um, what were you going to say about the prophetic nature of the book?
Okay, that requires an analysis of every name. Um, yeah,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, but before that, yes, like you mentioned, it's very important that the genealogy is the very feature of it being authentically historical. That's how because the function of genealogy in ancient Israel is to tell the origin of a person, and that origin of a person is so important because that's the basis for that person to get property, to actually live in a realistic society. Like they need to provide a genealogy to be enlisted as a part of the Israelites, especially during the exile and after the exile. We see in the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah that some people don't have uh, the correct genealogy. They couldn't trace their genealogy back to uh, someone who like recorded in other like genealogies. They were excluded kind of from the Israelites, even though they went back to Israel with other people, but they lost that genealogy, that they became sort of like a second class citizen in Israel. So genealogy is so important that it simply doesn't make sense that people just make things up. So
Yeah,
it's a how to say, it's like it's not just people can make something up and people and you submit it to people and say that's my family. No, it's like a governmental document. You can't just make it up. You can't make up a government document. It's illegal. If it's found out, you're getting to trouble. It's like that. So I think people need
Yeah,
to bear this in mind when they imagine the genealogy could be fake. Like
yeah,
that's especially in a document so important
yeah.
as the scriptures, you know.
Yeah, I also don't believe like that the early church or that like the Dead Sea Scroll community were naive to accept this book and not real and like so in the scholar in like the secular scholar's mind, their idea is this is a story, it's a fake, but you know the Jews revered it and the Christians accepted it. But and maybe they didn't realize it was a story, but I don't believe that they're naive like that. I mean, I'm
Mm,
sure that they continued to copy this book because they recognized it was about a real person, a real man
yeah,
of God, about a real story, and that was important to them. And so for that reason, you know, it's not just made up. To
yeah,
them, I'm sure they realized it was a real thing. Like I don't believe they were naive to accept something as a fake,
yeah.
which
That's
is
right.
that's the inclination of the modern scholarly mind, though, is to think that that is what happened. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's the mindset.
that's right.
So
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So the second thing I want to say is that I've written in my meditation. It says that the holy author imitated Moses in his writing because he wanted to show us that the story of Tobit was not merely an independent story. It was in continuation of the ancestral story from the creation of the cosmos to the patriarchs, to Moses, to judges, to the kingdoms, and to the exile. The acts and works of Tobit fit into the grand narrative of God's salvation history. So the genealogy sort of uh, play a role or serve the purpose of connecting this book to the book of Genesis. Just like the Gospel of Matthew, and I think Matthew particularly, starts with genealogy in the book of somebody. And the
yeah,
way they present it this way is so that they can connect the entire thing, the whole narrative back to Genesis. It's a continuation of God's work. It's a continuation of Scripture. It's intended to be understood this way. I think this is a
yeah.
very important point. Yeah.
Do you think that there's in the G2 text, do you think
Mhm.
there's any gaps, like any generations missing here from Tobit to Nephthalim? That would be an interesting thing
It
to
could
explore.
be. It could be.
So
I
there's
mean,
one, two, three, four, five, six, seven,
mhm.
seven generations between Tobit and Nephthalim
I
listed
th
here.
I think there must be gaps because Naphtali is the son of Jacob, and then you went through
Yeah, surely there
exile
are,
in
aren't
Egypt,
there?
yeah, exile
Yeah,
in Egypt and the wilderness, judges, you know, all and then kingdoms like so many times,
yeah,
so
yeah.
long. Yeah, yeah. I think there must be a
So I guess that you could say that so that then the question is why is he listing the names he lists? Why doesn't he
mm,
list the men who are in the gaps?
yes.
And so maybe one reason is because he's listing the prominent people, the people that you should more recognize,
Mm-hmm.
given your knowledge of the history when reading other books of scripture. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's listing these particular individuals because their names form a code, like a message. Like I was
Yes.
thinking about what do the meaning of the names, what are the meaning of the names? So like if you look at this, Tobit
Mm-hmm.
means my good one, right? My good
Mm.
one. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Tobiel is the good one of God, or God is good.
Yes, yes.
So it's like my good one of the good God of, and then Ananiel means the reign of God. So it's like my good one of the of my good one of the good one of God of the reign of God or
The
something
reign of
like
God.
this.
Okay, let
A
me.
reign, like yeah,
I've done I have written down the codes and then just try
really,
to decipher it. So here's
yeah, okay.
what I
What
wrote.
did you get?
So concerning the names, Tobit means good or my good one or my goodness. His father is Tobiel, meaning God is good. His father
Yeah.
is Ananiel, meaning I understood it as God answered me. This is a very
Okay.
special name because it is not a usual answer. The word for answer is anah in Hebrew, commonly used for oral answers through God's oracles. Ananiel's father, Aduel, was someone who heard the voice of God, probably related to the birth of Ananiel, thus naming his son so. Aduel means God promised him. It is again a commemoration of God's oracles, more specifically a promise in this case. We do not know what the promise is, and to whom is the person that God has promised to. But it is clear that Aduel's father, Gabael, is connected to oracles as well because he heard some God promised someone, or he said to someone God promised to you, and for that purpose, for to commemorate that, he gave his son's name as Aduel. Gabael means God be exalted. This name appears again and again in the book of Tobit, like 4, chapter 4, verse 1, 5, 6, 9, 2, etc., bringing a thematic emphasis to the whole book. It is the exaltation of God that everything that happened in this book happened, and it is for the exaltation of God that this book was written. Their ancestor is Aziel, which is um, Jaziel in Hebrew, who is the firstborn of Naphtali, son of Israel. You can see that in Genesis 46:24. The name of Aziel means God divides, meaning God divides goods into portions. That's what divides mean in that context. So the divide is not just a sense of division, it's a divide in the sense of distribution. Naphtali means
Okay.
you are a flowing honey to me, referring to Jacob getting one more son from Bilhah, the handmaid of his wife Rachel. Rachel is the favorite wife of Jacob. It was for her sake that Jacob worked for 14 years for his uncle Laban. So,
Okay.
uh,
What is Aziel again?
Aziel is Jeziel in Hebrew. You see in Genesis 40, 46:24, the name uh, Aziel means God divides.
God divides. What is Raguel? Did you get that one?
Oh, I didn't get that one. I didn't get that one.
Okay. So we know Raphael, God heals.
God heals, yes.
Aziel, God divides. And
Yes.
Naphtali, what is this one again?
Naphtali is he is a flowing honey to me. You
He
are
is
a
a
flowing
flowing
honey
honey
to me.
to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you think the code is? Like what is the message in the
So
genealogy?
So, through this short genealogy, it is clear that the family of Tobit was closely engaged in oracles at the time when God divided Israel. From later description, we know that the family of Tobit didn't come from the southern kingdom Judah, but northern kingdom Israel. Yet their constant engagement in oracles shows their piety and their close walk with God in a time of division. They might have received many oracles from the mouth of priests in Jerusalem as they paid their pilgrimage to the temple against the law of the northern kingdom. This is shown in the Third Kingdoms 12:25 to 28. Third Kingdom is Second Kings. Such
What are you
piety,
reading from? Did you write
I
this?
wrote it down. Yes, I wrote it.
Yeah. Where did you get the information about their names?
I did my own research.
Oh, okay. So this is your own.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did you start your commentary already on
No,
Tobit?
it's not a commentary. It's just some reflection.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
okay.
such.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So, but what do you think the message of the genealogy is? Like,
Uh,
what's the
yeah.
message?
Let me finish this paragraph.
Okay, okay.
Such piety indeed is pleasing to God as a flowing honey sweet to the taste, but it is also possible that they did engage in oracles in a more active way, since God's promise for someone else came to Gabael. So God's promise to someone else came to Gabael means that Gabael is engaged in oracles in a very active way. It would be no surprise that this family was not only a God glorifying family, but also a family of prophets. Tobit, and that's the message of the genealogy. Tobit then was a son of prophets, which made him a prophet himself, according to the Hebrew idiom. So when the Hebrew
Okay,
says
I
you
know
are
I know you
sons,
just read all that, but I don't understand. How is Tobit a prophet? Can you explain it simply, please?
so okay, so you see that in the names, it constantly show that God promised someone or God answered someone, like this kind of language. Those kind of language is prophetic language. It is like those people pray to God. Those people had a close relationship with God, and they have like so intimate that they actually have oracles from God. They sort of like Tobit's family
So
sort of.
so you don't you're not saying he's in the he's not in the office of prophets. He's just a prophet in general.
He's a well, there is
Because there's a
no
difference, right?
official
There's
there's no official office of prophet in ancient Israel.
are you sure
I-
about that?
I- I'm sure if he's a prophet, he's a prophet. There's no official, like if God chose him to be a prophet, he's a prophet.
But don't the prophets have an association though with the priests and the temple and such? Like there is a organization to it, isn't there?
No, 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 no. Prophet don't. Prophets don't.
I disagree with you. There's definitely an organization. There's something there. Like I
What?
mean,
No.
obviously with like Jeremiah, like with this type of prophet, like with Jeremiah and like Ezekiel, there's not. But like with the 12 minor prophets, they're not just like out on their own, like rogue. I mean,
No, they
they're
are.
definitely no, they're not.
No, they are. Think about it.
No, they're
Zechariah and
not.
Micah didn't even when Zechariah and Micah served, there wasn't even a temple there. There wasn't
To
even
be a
the
prophet, to be a prophet, there's a prophetic office. To be a prophet, you have to be made a prophet.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to be made a prophet. So there's a prophetic office. Like
No, well,
it's almost like it's not exactly like this, but it's almost like a succession. There's a
uh,
prophet in there's a prophet in every there's a prophet in every there's a prophet in almost every time period.
right.
And so is Tobit representing like the main line of the main prophet, or is he representing like an Elijah, you know, how do I say that? It's a little complicated.
I don't think there is a strict line of prophet. God can randomly just choose someone. There's no like I don't think there's an
Okay,
official.
so like this, like
Yeah.
Samuel let's use him as an example because this is
Mm,
kind of what I'm thinking of.
mm.
Samuel was a prophet, yes?
He was a priest too.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's the confusion is sometimes they're priests and sometimes they're only prophets.
Yes. Isaiah was related to the family to the royal family, but he's not related to priesthood. And Jonah is not related to anyone.
that we know that we know
Oh,
of.
wow. Jonah was related to Elijah because um, Elijah resurrected Jonah when he was a kid.
Well, so but the problem is though is how do you know it's a prophet? Like because he can't just give us a genealogy that makes us think he's a prophet. Like there has to be something that tells us he's a prophet outside of that. Like so that's the thing. Like that's why I'm saying there's some kind of office that like they are confirmed to be a prophet by the people or by the organization in some way of Israel. There's
Oh,
something that Israel does to recognize them as a prophet. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I know in the moment some of them aren't recognized, right? Like
mhm.
obviously some of them are not recognized in the moment, perhaps,
Right,
but
right.
there is something. But I feel like there's something missing here. There's definitely
Um,
something that causes them to be recognized as holding that office. Maybe it's after their life, but at some point there has to, like with Moses, he was in his lifetime, of course, I'm sure he was recognized as a prophet, right?
yeah,
And so for some of them were recognized in their lifetime, some of them weren't. But there is a sort, like even Jeremiah, like aren't there some characters in the Jeremiah Apocryphon that recognize him as like being the pillar that prays for the people, that is the prophet during their times? Like even with Ezekiel, there were some people I'm sure who, saw him doing the things he did. They knew that
yeah.
he was the prophet. Like, but I think that there's something even beyond that though. Like you can't just say like you can't just say you're a prophet and then be a prophet. Like how do we know that he's a prophet? There's some kind of office there.
No, I don't think there's an official kind of office there. It's a you can say it's a divine office, it's a spiritual office, and whenever God choose someone, appointed someone to be a prophet, whenever God speaks to someone, ask him to pass the information, that made him a prophet. I think that makes you a prophet. And the other way you are recognized as a
Well, I
prophet is
agree
that
with
you,
that. I agree with that.
yeah,
But you see the prophets interacting with Israel. Like you see
yeah,
them interacting. Like,
yeah,
and so obviously I know that I recognize them as having that status of prophet, whatever you want to call it. Status may not be the right word, whatever you want to call it. They recognize them as being a prophet.
yeah,
Like in the books of the Kings, another example, like in the books of the Kings, um, was it oh gosh, was it Obadiah that no, there was one prophet that kept prophesying against this one king, and he got angry. He's like, why does this prophet always say bad things about me? Do you
yeah,
remember that?
yeah,
That was
yeah, yeah.
in
It's in
Samuel or
Second
King.
Kings. Yes, Second Kings.
Yeah,
Yes.
um, so clearly the kings had prophets that they recognized in that position. In other words, they held the office of prophet. I'm not saying that they had like their own room with a desk, that had their name on it, said,
Yeah,
"Hi,
I
I'm
know.
Prophet Obadiah" or whoever. Like I'm saying, like they were recognized in the organization of Israel as having that position. Like that
I,
position was. Let me put it this way. Let me put it a different way. That position was a recognized position in the ancient Israel government. Like they knew that there was a category of king, a category of priest, and a category of prophet. That's what I'm trying to say. And they knew that there were certain individuals God raised up, like in specific times to hold that position. I'm sure they recognized that. And so now there could be multiples, right? There could be multiples at the
mm,
same time, and I'm sure there were, but they recognized that there was sort of a leading figure at times, and that's what seems to be the case. Like when you look at the prophetic books and in the Old Testament, it seems like there is some overlap, but in general, it's like you have one particular individual raised up for that specific time and purpose.
mm.
Do you see
I
what I'm saying?
yeah.
So it's not like a hard, this is an official documented office type of thing. It's more just like they recognize that position. And so my question is, uh, how does Tobit fit into that? I guess
No, I think
like Tobit doesn't really read like a prophetic book. It reads like a narrative.
no, nor
And I'm
does
not saying he's not a
Jonah.
prophet. I'm not saying he's not a prophet. I'm saying, well, Jonah has well, true, but Jonah has it's not entirely though. Like half of Jonah is narrative, half of it is poetry, right? And then
There's only
there
one
is some.
chapter of poetry.
Well, the last chapter though, you could say it's a blend of narrative and prophecy. It kind of reads more prophetic in the last chapter, in my opinion.
That's it. Well, there are
Um,
oracles.
yeah, yeah.
It's the oracle. Yeah.
Well, my point is that I think for this particular thing, my point is that Tobit seems like it reads differently than the other prophetic books in general. Like it's mostly narrative. It's mostly like it's mostly like let me think of a
Historical book.
comparison. What's a Yeah, it's mostly historical, isn't it? Now you can definitely see the prophetic nature in it.
Mm,
But my question is, okay, let me put it in another way. Is Tobit the same kind of prophet as a guy like Jeremiah?
I think so.
You think so?
There's no different kinds of prophet. There's only one kind of prophet.
Well, uh, that you're begging the question. Like that's the point.
No, I
The
mean,
point of the point
in,
of my
I mean,
question is Tobit does not seem like he is a prophet like them
well,
because of how
here's
well,
the thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Think about it. David, can you remember any time David make a prediction in his in his narrative? You don't really see that. You don't see he make any oracles. He always asks for oracles from somewhere else, but he himself doesn't really make oracles.
Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting that in David's time, we would consider the Psalms prophetic, obviously,
yeah,
and we
but
would consider David,
David
yeah,
is called a prophet in the New Testament.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we would consider him a prophet, but
yeah,
it's interesting though because during his time there were prophets in that office,
yeah,
like Nathan the prophet. Like that's what
yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, man. Like there is definitely a position. Like the kings would seek out the prophet to intercede for them to God, right? Like that is like an office. That's what I'm trying to say. Like
Uh,
there's
oh,
this type of thing,
I'm
but Tobit clearly wasn't that, right? Because there were no
well,
kings to
you
seek him
don't
out in
know.
that time, but.
Yeah. Well, here is the thing. Um, um,
Well,
First
I
of all,
think
I
I think
think
my problem. So let me just say this so you understand where I'm coming from. I have
okay.
no problem calling Tobit a prophet. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
problem with that. I
yeah,
think he is a prophet in
yeah.
some sense,
Mm,
but at the same time, I question how you're arriving at that conclusion because the name thing is interesting
mm.
that you have these connections, but I think that's a bit of a stretch to use that to say he is a prophet. I think that's not enough. What I was wanting to know was what is the message in the genealogy? I don't think we've gotten to that yet. I guess we can get to that in a second, but let's solve this one first.
Mm.
I think that's the issue I have is how can you be so sure at arriving at that conclusion just based on the names?
Well,
And
I
then
think
also given yeah, go
I think
ahead.
the name actually tells you the name because the name is just not just names. You can say it's a code, but it's actually not just a code. The message is the message in the name is just telling you the circumstance of the birth of that person. That's the point,
Mm.
or the identity of that person. So when someone is named that God answered him or God promised him, and that those kind of names are not just telling people how to say it's not just about it's not just a spiritual name, you know, they try to make it sound spiritual or, you know, this type of thing. It actually tells you that this child's birth is in commemoration of the what happened to me with God. Like God actually promised him, or God
So,
actually
so I
promised
agree
me.
with all that. I agree with
Yeah.
all that. But how do you connect their name of his fathers to him? Like
So
his
let me,
name is just my good one. His name is
yeah,
just
yeah.
my good one.
Here is the thing. So, uh, so those people who those ancestors who are constantly engaged with oracles, they are actually if you take what's the name here um I think it's Gabriel's father.
So you think he's in a line of individuals from Naphtali who are more how do I say that? They're more prone to receive oracles from God. They're more they have this history of being associated with prophetic stuff, like prophetic related
So
events in their lives.
I think
They're more, yeah,
yeah, I think in case of Gabriel, for example, like God has sent a God conveyed a message of
yeah.
promise for someone else to him and ask him to convey that message,
Mm,
which is the name of his son signifies. In that case, you can see that he is actually serving as a prophet. Like he is actually engaged. He actually engaged in the prophetic work, prophetic ministry in the Northern Kingdom, among people. Maybe in a small scale, but you still have that. So I
I
think
see.
that's
So,
yeah,
okay, I'm starting to
yeah,
catch the drift here. So the idea is he is in a line,
yeah,
kind of like Josephus, how Josephus said he has a priestly line.
yeah,
Tobit is in a line of individuals who are prophets or associated with the prophetic
yeah,
um,
yeah.
enterprise, for lack of a better.
I think he
Yeah.
specifically choose the prophetic figures from the genealogy, the people who worship. There are
Yeah.
people who are in ancient Israel who are considered prophets, but not really like.
Is this an original thought that you had that he specifically chose the individuals who are associated with the prophetic position, or is this
That's
something
my
you're
thought.
drawing from your thought? Okay,
That's my thought. That's my
I think
original.
it's a good thought. I think it's a good
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think,
I'm starting to see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why it's that's why you see why the names are selected rather than give all the people in the genealogy. Like I think there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah
Well, I think, well, so that's the direction you're going in. I think that's right, but I feel like there's another level here too, because I think that whenever we looked at Isaiah, remember we looked at Isaiah 1:1, and we saw that if you look at the names he lists, it's like
mm,
an actual message. Like there's a message in the coded
ah
in the names. Like I think that there could be a message in this list here. Like it's almost like you read the sentence, like
mm,
my good one who is of the goodness of God,
ah
whom God answered, and Aduel. I forget what's Aduel mean.
God answered him.
God answered. Well, no, Aduel
No,
is
no, no,
God's
that's not.
promise, right?
Hang on. Where is it? It's here. Adwell is God promised him.
Yeah, God promised. So, I mean, we'd have to do more. We have to give more thought to this because we'd have to, smooth it out and figure out what is actually going on.
Mm.
But it's like my good one, who's the good one of God, whom God answered, who is God's promise, and then Gavael is what again?
Gabriel is God be exalted.
God be exalted. Whom God promised, may God be exalted. God heals. And then Raguel. I don't know what Raguel is. I need to look that up.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, Ra
Raguel
Raga.
is the name of an angel. The angel of it can mean, oh yeah, yeah. God will pasture. God will
Ah.
pasture. So it's like my good one, who's the goodness of God, whom God answered, who is God's promise. Um, what is Gavael again? I know you just told me. What is it again? Oh,
God
God
be
be
exalted.
exalted. Yeah, God be
God.
exalted. God heals. God heals, who is
God
the pasturing
pastor.
God,
Mm.
the shepherding God,
Shepherd
the
God. Yeah.
shepherding, out of the seed of God dividing from the tribe of the sweet flowing honey. Is that what you said? That's
Yes.
what he is.
Yes.
So I know that sounds a little rough. But I do kind of see that there's some kind of message there. So we'd
Yeah.
have to like figure out
Well,
exactly.
think about this.
Yeah.
Think about this way. If Naphtali, the flowing honey, is referring to the land, the flows milk and honey, that would be the promised land. And then, and then in the promised land, there's a portion, a distribution going on. And then in this distribution, God set his pastor, his pastor, through whom God heals. and what is Gabel again? So in this
God exalted.
yeah,
God is
so in the
exalted.
healing, in this healing, in the process of healing, in the process of pastoring, um, God is exalted, and He promised, promise for someone comes in the future, and God hears the like kind of like a post-exilic situation, like people is in anguish again. God hears, and then God and God is good, and the good one will come, which of course the good one is Christ Himself.
Okay, but you said all that out of order though. Like you put these out of
Well,
order.
no, I put the
And you
reversed
missed
order.
Azio. Where does Azio?
As is the division
Oh, you
is
did the
the
reversed order. Okay, can you say that again, please?
so in a promised land there is a distribution. In this distribution, a lot was given to the ruler, the pastor of God, who heals through which God is exalted, and God maybe through the one.
God
Yeah.
promised to
God,
answer.
yes, God promised that God has a promise, and God promised and God heard. God promised in the sense that God promised the Messiah, and God heard in the sense of the Messiah will come in people as people calls on God. Like the two ways of describing the same thing. One from the perspective of God, God promised, and one from the perspective of the people. People has anguish and called upon God. And then God is good, so He will send the good one.
Dang. Wow. Okay. I definitely see the messianic prophetic. Actually, I think you could take it in two ways. I think you could take it the way you said, which is like the deeper sort of messianic
Mhm.
significance. And then like within the context of the book, you could
Mm.
say it's saying that the shepherding God and the healing God, he is exalted. He promised that he would answer um, the God of Tobia, the God
Yeah,
of
God is
Tobit,
good. Uh-huh.
the God of Tobit. Well, you could. I think that in Hebrew,
God of Tobit, yes.
this could be understood in two different ways. I think you can
Right.
understand it as um, God is good, or as um,
God of Tobit.
Uh, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He, my point is that I see it as referring to Tobit too. It's not just referring to my good one. Like it could be like God
I see.
answered Tobit, because that's the whole book. The book of Tobit is about God answering Tobit,
Right, right.
God healing, bringing Raphael to heal him from his blindness.
Mm,
And so I see it as a dualistic meaning here in the context of the book. You know, there's like multiple levels. Like in the context of the book, this message is referring to God. It's like a mini
mm,
summary of the book. It's like a mini
mm,
summary of the book. Like the book is that God answered and heard and healed Tobit. But then
mm,
the deeper level is, you could say, about the Messiah.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I kind of see both there. But that's
Yes.
interesting going back, like going backwards here. Um,
Well,
yeah, I think we
I
definitely need
going
to think about this more. There's a lot going on right here for
right.
sure.
The reason why going backwards is just because it's easier for how my mind process things, but actually, like if you think of it from a Hebrew perspective, if you switch your mind to a Hebrew mind, I think that actually makes sense, like to say the other way. Just like you see in the genealogy of Luke, like it's not like from the father to the son, but it's from son and trace back to the father, something like that. So you can do it like two ways. Like it just depends on how you
Yeah, yeah.
process the message. But no matter how you process it, the message is the same.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think there may be something going forward too, though.
Mm,
Yeah, somehow we're going to have to. What we need to do is we need to do more thorough research
mm,
on the Greek words and what the underlying Hebrew would be, and then try to decipher this more
mm,
precisely. But I think right what we just talked about, that is a pretty close. That's probably a pretty close overview of
Yeah,
what it is saying. So that's pretty
yeah.
interesting.
But
Yeah,
also
there's a
like
lot there. Yeah.
yeah, but also like why it's so important to recognize Tobit as a prophetic work, the whole book to regard the whole book as prophetic rather than merely historical is because
Mm.
it's not telling you it's the story of Tobit. It's telling you that it's the words of Tobit. I think to emphasize that these are the words, the book of the words of
That
Tobit.
is that is yeah, okay. That is
Yeah.
more for some reason that's more convincing to me. Yeah. Well, with that, with what, yeah, that with the other point about the names and his
Yeah.
history with his ancestors being associated with the prophetic enterprise, that is that those are 2 points there that it makes it more convincing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've never thought about Tobit as a prophetic work until
Yeah.
you mentioned this. Like
No,
I've
I
always
might.
thought of it
Yeah.
as an inspired historical book. Like,
Right.
I mean, I in my mind, I guess I thought like Tobit, he was because of his righteousness, because he was such a great person,
Mm.
he was, and he because God worked in his life with Raphael. I thought that's why the book was considered inspired and accepted. But I didn't realize that I didn't really think about that. He could actually himself be considered a prophet, and this is
Yeah.
a prophetic book itself. So
Yeah.
that is really a yeah, wow, that's really quite something.
Yes.
So the book of the word. So this phrase, you're right. This phrase, book of the words, following the name. This is we've seen this elsewhere, haven't we? Like this is in other books, right, of the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, like in
Uh,
Enoch, like the book of the words of Enoch, right?
yes.
Let me
Yes.
check that real fast. I think that
Yes.
is in Enoch. Um,
Mm.
so I have it here. Let's see. Is this how? This is the. I think this. Oh yeah, this is Heiser and Pinn's
No.
edition of First Enoch. Let's see if they do it like the word of the blessing of Enoch. The word of the that's what it is in the Greek.
Yeah.
So the word of the blessing of Enoch.
Mm.
That's pretty close. Is there another book that begins like this? Book of the words of following the prophet name?
Um, Usually other prophetic work starts from the word came to someone.
Yeah, yeah. So
So so it's but the core the main thing is the word. Like the idea of the word is always there. I think that
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because the words are like, um, well, this isn't the specific word for oracle. Oracles would be the logia,
yeah.
but the book of the words of, I feel like I've seen this before in
Oh, you have
another,
you have Amos starts from words of Amos, that blah blah blah.
yeah, the words
Uh,
of Amos.
yes.
Yeah, the word, well, this is the word of the Lord. Okay, so
Micah is the word of the Lord. Uh,
it is very actually it is very similar to how the minor prophets write, isn't it?
that's
And the
right.
minor prophets are in the same sort of, aren't they in the same general time? The
Some of them are.
general,
Some of them
some of
are.
them, yeah, some
Mm,
of them.
mm.
That is interesting. So Obadiah begins the vision of Obadiah. Jonah is a lot of them begin like the word of the Lord. Like you have the
Yeah.
word of the Lord
Or sometimes starts with a vision of someone.
or the message. Yeah, the vision, word of the Lord. Yeah,
Mm.
that is. I'm just kind of looking through here.
Yeah, 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 me
Some of them
too.
begin the
Yeah.
message, the lema. Isaiah begins the vision of Isaiah. The
Mm,
rhema of the of God, that's Jeremiah.
mm,
And Baruch is, these are the words. Okay, look at Baruch. And
mm.
these are the words of the book which Baruch wrote, the
Ah,
son of Neriah, the son, and then he gives the genealogy. So this is pretty similar to Tobit.
yes,
Now,
yes.
isn't so Tobit is living
During
we
exile.
said that during the exile. So
Yes.
is doesn't Jeremiah doesn't his lifetime cover the exile? It,
I think it was the
yeah.
end of Jeremiah's life, but sort of like Tobit was like towards the end of Jeremiah. Um, Tobit was born, something like that. But Jeremiah was kind of hold on. Jeremiah was
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find my
I think
timeline.
Jeremiah was actually gosh. he was a prophet in not in Israel but in Judah. So when Jeremiah died, Tobit should have died. Um,
Do you see at the top? It's like
Jeremiah's here.
BC. Yeah, can you zoom in a bit on Jeremiah? So yeah, zoom in a bit in that time in this area.
Yes.
Okay, so Tobit, according to our thing, Tobit
Mm,
was let me pull up the introduction again. Okay, so Tobit, according to our estimation,
mm.
he lives between 722 to 612.
So they do have
722 to 612.
so they do have a little bit.
So
Tobit
so
actually
yeah, so
older than Jeremiah.
yeah, so Jeremiah could have been a was probably a boy or a young man when Tobit died.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, so
That's right.
he's a young man or maybe a boy when Tobit died.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so they're pretty close. So the
yes.
reason why I asked that is because Baruch is Jeremiah's scribe, and the
Mm,
way Baruch writes may help us understand the general way that they were writing in that time.
yeah.
Just a thought. So Baruch probably overlaps with Tobit too, because Baruch is his
Mm,
scribe. So, or if he
yeah.
doesn't overlap, he's very close. They're like right after each other.
Right,
So
right,
that
right.
is very interesting because Baruch is written very similar in the Greek to how
Mm,
Tobit begins. So
mm,
that is that is quite something.
yeah.
Now,
Unfortunately,
however,
this timeline doesn't
yeah,
really have apocryphal stuff. Like
it
doesn't
doesn't
really
have
have
what?
the timeline doesn't include the information about deuterocanonical books and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. See, we really need to make our own timeline or update
Yeah,
this one. I think we could update this one. This one's really good.
yeah, we need to. Yeah.
Um, So, however, though, do we consider Baruch a prophet? Because Baruch
Yes.
is
Yes.
Jeremiah's scribe.
Yeah. Yeah. Baruch is considered a prophet.
You consider him the same prophet as the same kind of prophet as Jeremiah?
Yeah. He actually ministered on his own after Jeremiah died. So
So that makes me think that there is a kind of prophetic office, like I was telling you earlier, because there's like a succession there. Like it's not
uh,
necessarily like we don't see Baruch saying that God appeared to him in the same vision, kind of vision that he did to Jeremiah. But Baruch
mm,
is associated with Jeremiah. He's a scribe, and well, I guess in the apocryphal book of Baruch, there is a lot more there. But yeah, actually, yeah, in second Baruch, there is a lot more there that does make him seem like a prophet. So, okay,
yeah,
I take back what I said. my
yeah.
my it seems the whole prophetic thing. I think it seems a little confusing because you have some prophets that are kings, some that are priests. You have some that act
Yeah.
like they succeed other prophets. There are some
Yeah.
prophets who like they're prophets during the time when Israel
Yeah.
accepts them, and there's
Yeah.
some that aren't accepted. Like so the prophet thing seems a bit confusing to me
Right.
for that reason. But yeah, anyways, so anyways, the whole reason why I wanted you to look at that timeline is because Baruch is like right in the time at the end of Tobit's life,
Tobit.
and he
Right.
writes in a very similar way to
Yeah.
how he begins the book of Tobit. So
Yeah.
that is quite something. I think that that says something. And since Baruch is a prophet, especially according to Second Baruch,
Mm,
that that really says something. Yeah. So
yeah.
that is convincing to me. That is pretty. Those two or three points combined are pretty convincing to me that Tobit is a prophet. I think the issue is just I've just never thought of Tobit as a prophet. Do we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
icons of Tobit in the church? Like,
I think you can find one online.
do they put like the prophet Tobit on the icon like they do with like Jeremiah and
I think
Isaiah and stuff?
for almost all the Old Testament saints, they usually say righteous.
Oh, really?
Righteous.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, like righteous Joshua, righteous
But
Enoch.
doesn't it say? But I do recall seeing prophete on like Daniel's icon, right? Aren't
Yeah,
there
yeah,
some
some of them
icons that?
do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of them do. But
Yeah.
not every prophets are like especially when they're not listed in the prophet section in the Septuagint, usually the prophet title isn't given to them apart from Moses.
A part. Okay, sorry. Can you say that again? If it's
So
not,
if
yeah.
if that person is not an author of the prophetic work that is listed in the Septuagint section of prophets, then
Ah.
usually those people are not called prophets.
Okay, so you have convinced me that Tobit is a prophet, but
Yeah.
now you just brought up another concern though. Why isn't Tobit in the prophet section of the Septuagint?
Well,
Well, actually, hang on.
Psalms is not in the
The
prophet section either,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's
Yeah,
considered
okay,
prophet.
okay.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we also believe Samuel is a prophet and he's in
yeah.
the historical set. Okay. Well, also I just realized though that the ordering of the books in the Septuagint are not the same depending on the manuscript you look at. See,
Right.
that's another issue. That's another issue. The gosh, the order of the books is not consistent in the manuscript.
Yeah,
Gosh,
yeah.
like if you look at like Codex Sinaiticus and you compare it to Alexandrinus, I don't think the order is the same. It may be generally
Hmm.
the same, but I don't think it's exactly the same.
I
Like
think
I
the
think
minor
if you
prophets are
compare
different. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, see, this is a whole nother, like, I think what's really great about this is we're kind of seeing where we need to study, like, do more research. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll probably end up rewatching this video later and then taking notes on, okay, we need to do this, this, and this
Yes, yes.
to go further. Yeah.
That's
Like,
right.
we need to sort out, like, exactly how the books are listed and what they do. I know that they're not always consistent. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which
Mm.
one is the more common ordering. Like, I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think
Okay. Well, anyways,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you've convinced me. Yeah, that's the thing. I've just never thought of Tobit as being a prophet. Like,
Me
so
either.
I have a higher view of
Yeah.
him now. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I only come to the conclusion after I analyze the first verse.
yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, I think we're gonna have to come back to this first verse because I need to figure out what the underlying Hebrew is, and we need to sort out more precisely his history. And we should do a background check on his on the people listed in his genealogy, like more specific
Hmm.
background check and see like what exactly who they were, what they did, as much as we can find out about them.
Mm.
And that would tell us even, I think you had a good overview, but were you getting your information from like Kings and Chronicles on his people in his genealogy?
No.
Well, you got one from Genesis, right? Genesis
Right, right,
46,
right, right. The rest of it, I just did the study on the words, and
the study on the words. Yeah,
I think if we go to some rabbinic Jewish sources, like some of the older sources, they may have something related to these names. I'm not sure.
yeah.
But it could be.
There may be something in the Apocrypha too, like
Right, right, right.
something in the Apocrypha.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You see, Tobit is so often ignored as a fiction. Like even among the faithful, like Tobit is so often ignored as a small story. Like it doesn't really teach very great things. Like it doesn't sound like a great important prophetic work, or even doesn't seem like to be a very important historical work. It doesn't sound like teaching some great
Yeah.
historical like events or anything like that. Like it's so often ignored, but that's why people don't have much information about it. But
Yeah.
you see, there are actually a
I
lot of
was,
important things.
yeah, I was halfway there. I mean, like obviously I accepted it as scripture. We
Yeah,
both did before today, right?
yeah,
We both viewed it as important historically and even in some sense prophetic. I just never thought of Tobit as a prophet. Like that's just kind of a new category to me,
yeah.
or a new thing. So, but yeah, you're right. You're right. It's like we don't have yeah, we begin with a lower view of him, probably
Hmm.
from just like our own coming out of Protestantism probably is
Right.
part of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I guess as part of it is like conditioning. Like you're told so much that, or you hear so much, or like in these scholarly books we read, we're told so much that it's apocryphal, it's or it's pseudepigraphal, or it's
Yeah.
just a story. Like it just kind of rubs off on you. It's like you need to immerse yourself in the right environment to kind
Yeah.
of help de-brainwash you from
Yeah.
from the lies and the propaganda.
Yes, yes. That's right. Yeah.
This book is really profound, man. Gosh, just from doing this in-depth analysis of the first verse, I feel already like I appreciate Tobit way more. How long have
Yeah.
we spent talking about this first verse?
Uh, don't know. No
When did we
idea.
start? We started it. It's been about an hour, right? Gosh.
But yeah, I think 45 minutes, around 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's amazing. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to come back to this again. There's so
Yes,
much here.
yes.
Well, do you have anything else you want to share about verse one before we keep
Uh,
going?
no, I don't think I have anything to say about verse one. Yeah, no,
That's amazing. Gosh.
no,
Yeah, yeah, you convinced me, and I see where we need to do more research. Okay,
yeah,
let's go to verse two then.
yeah.
So back to the G1 text.
Mm-hmm.
Os echmalotevte in emeres enemesaru, tu basileos assyrion ek tisves, estin ek dexion kudios tes nephthalim, in te Galilea uperano aser. So that is uh, as as he was made to be taken a prisoner of war or a captive of war in the days of uh, Enemisaru or Enemisaros,
Mm-hmm.
who was the king of the Assyrians out of Thisbe,
Mm-hmm.
which is, so it tells you now where Thisbe is, which is from the right, which is on the right side of Kudios,
Mm-hmm.
of Nephthalim, which is in Galilee
Mm-hmm.
above Asher.
Yes.
So that's a very specific address
Yeah.
that is given. And that is given. Okay,
Which
so
is
let's read
also
the.
full of meanings, actually.
We, yeah, I would imagine. Let's read G2 first, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
G2 is actually quite longer. It looks like.
Ah,
Os ech os ech malotevte intes emeres enemesaru tu basileos tu Assyrion ek tisves, estin ek dexion kudios tes Nephthalim, inte anno Galilea uperano aser apizo odu dusmon eliu ex aristeron fogor. So, so it says here, as he was made to be taken a prisoner or captive of war in the days of Enemisaros, who was the king of the Assyrians out of Thisbe, which is on the right side of Kudios of Nephthalim, uh, which is uh, which is um, which is in the upper part of Galilee,
mm, mm,
above Asher. So we see here that these words they
yeah.
look like synonyms, but they're not exactly the same. This one is
Mm,
like the upper part of Galilee,
mm-hmm.
above Asher,
Mm,
uh, after the path of the setting of the sun, um, out of which is so that's west, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Out of
yeah.
the left hand side of Fogor, Fogor.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I say Fogor, it makes me think of like I don't know, like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something. Like there's like
It does sound
Fogor,
like a
the mystical land of Fogor.
yes, does sound like a name that is very legendary, mystical, something like that.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
funny, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
Um,
I
okay,
haven't.
Jimmy. So tell me the spiel. What's up with this verse?
Okay, let me tell you. Let me just read to you what I've written, and then we can talk about what you can interrupt me. I have to confess that I haven't analyzed G2. So what I have is only G1. So there's a chunk that is lost and we need to do it on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So Tobit was captured as a war prisoner as Enemisaros conquered the northern kingdom. He was brought from his hometown to the foreign place where he sojourned. At the last, as the last verse, which is verse 1, tells us that the family story of Tobit, showing that it was not a fiction, but a real event happening on real person. This verse gives us the historical setting and hometown of Tobit, bearing similar purposes. As we
Yeah,
can recall, St. Luke in his gospel also used the same technique, telling his readers about the time and place where all the events happened, and also gave witnesses so that the readers, Theophilus and we too, can be sure that whatever is taught to us from the prophets is trustworthy. First, the author made clear the historical time when Tobit lived. He lived around the end of northern kingdom of Israel and experienced himself the captivity by the Assyrian armies. I think we've talked about this in our introduction already. The
Yeah,
event of the Assyrian conquest is found in the Fourth Kingdoms, chapter 17. Second Kings, for those who read Masoretic text. The word captured is a technical military term. I think you've already translated it out when you read it, when you read it through. Always used in a military conquest sense. It is
yeah.
this word that St. Paul used to describe how Christ took captivities in Ephesians 4:8.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was thinking of that too. It
yeah,
is the word for that. It is the word
that's
for that.
right. Yeah.
And it
Such
is
a
a military word. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Such a captivity happens when the city is entirely overthrown and the original ruling power is totally overwhelmed. Christ also totally overwhelmed the demonic powers and conquered the realm of death, sin and the devil for good. Sorry, I have because I was doing meditation, so I have sometimes have some digression. It is a thorough conquest, but Tobit, a righteous man, unjustly suffered the captivity under the Gentile troops. Fourth Kingdom 17:7 stated that the reason for captivity is Israel's betrayal to God,
Mm-mm.
betrayal against God. They abandoned God and follow the idols, the false gods, the demons. Then why didn't God protect Tobit, a righteous person, a prophet, from such a terrible destiny? We do not know. Saints suffer with sinners, and they pray for sinners. Their prayers in such unjust sufferings prevail much, benefiting the sinners who suffer justly. So the point is that even if the saints don't, like, righteous people suffer with unrighteous people, but the righteous in their suffering, they pray to God. And in their prayers, the unrighteous people who are suffering justly actually benefited from the prayer of the just people, of the righteous people. So I think that's that's sort of providential in a way.
Mm-mm.
Yet, it is exactly in our offenses that their prayers prevails, bringing us much benefits that we don't deserve, the grace of God for our salvation. But meanwhile, it is only fitting that Christ, on the day of his victory, conquered the enemies, restored justice for the saints, captured those who captured the saints unjustly, along with the demonic powers that captured Israel and caused them to sin in the first place. So even though the saints, the righteous people, even today, like a lot of people are righteous people, innocent people are suffering, uh, they are suffering, but God has God has conquered that which caused them to suffer unjustly. God has conquered them and raised them to a status. Sometimes in the future, but a lot of them, like, very soon. Sometimes even in their life, they experience something that is extraordinary. They raise them. Christ raised them to a not just a status but a degree that can experience his divine glory in an extraordinary way. Like some of the saints would, like, in their greatest anguish, they can do miracles. Like they do healings. They bring comfort to people. But it's not just that they are able to help others, but also, like, through doing miracles, they have an intimate connection. They have an intimate sort of relationship, mutual indwelling with God. I think that's
Do you know of anyone in the church who has prayed for Tobit's intercession, Saint Tobit's, the saint and prophet Tobit's intercession?
I don't know anyone who is actually named after Tobit, but I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
There are people who named after Tobit. Yes. Um,
So does is Tobit so okay, so in the church,
mhm.
the recognition as a prophet, there are feast days for the prophets, right?
Right.
So is there a feast day for Tobit as a
Yeah.
prophet?
Yes.
There really
Yeah.
in the
In the church
Eastern
calendar.
Orthodox tradition?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, there's a feast day for Tobit. I can find it.
What's what day is it?
Feast day of Tobit.
Well, see, that's something I didn't know. I mean, oh, I'm always learning about the church calendar. The church calendar is complicated to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
December the 17th. Yes. Yeah. No, no, no. Hang on. That's not the same Tobit. That's not the same Tobit. That's the Tobit in the time of Eusebius. Uh,
uh,
no. But I think that would be probably the same day. Hold on. Gosh, the study on Tobit is really, really, really rare.
yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
A lot of Orthodox resources, a lot of Orthodox resources take like refer to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
really, like
There are a couple of commentaries, some really good scholarly commentaries I know about Tobit. I just haven't picked it up yet, but that's something we should look into. Yeah, see, that's part of the problem is where do you even find the information for like how do we even know if Tobit has a feast day as a prophet in the Orthodox calendar? Um, so I mean, yeah, that's does the little red prayer book we have, does that list all of the commemorations of all the prophets or only some of them?
uh wow, not I don't think actually all every single one of them, but let me check. Let me check. No, it's not there. It's not listed. But usually biblical figures will be listed here somewhere. But it's the whole year, every single day. How am I going to find it? That's so difficult. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you find that, let me know, because I mean, that would be pretty strong. Well, of course, that's pretty strong evidence that, yeah, he is considered a prophet. They actually do consider him a prophet. And
yeah,
I would assume that that tradition goes back. So um,
mm, yeah, of
I don't
course.
see, just like from generally Googling, I don't see anything online
No,
that
there's no.
that says it.
Whenever you type Tobit, it only tells you Book of Tobit. There's no such thing as there's no any mention of Tobit the person. That's why I say that he is so much ignored in so many ways. Like this, he is
Yeah.
so much ignored in so many ways. Yes,
So I just Googled icon of Tobit the Prophet, and I do see something that says it's an icon of Tobit the Prophet.
oh, oh,
Um,
okay.
so I do. Maybe I should just share my screen. Let me just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Let me just pull it up on. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes,
So this one is this. So it says icon of Tobit the Prophet, Cretan.
should be.
Is this a different Tobit?
There's
I
only
just don't know.
one. No, there's only one Tobit the prophet.
The
There's
church feast day is the second Sunday before Nativity.
oh,
There is an icon with Tobit and Raphael, it looks like.
that's right. That's right. Yes, there is an
Yeah.
icon. So it's like oh gosh, let's see. He is so it's so often
Yeah. So this it looks like this is the one that I see. Um, this is the one that I see. It's kind of I don't really know about these other ones.
okay.
Well, let's look later. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah,
keep going.
yeah.
So if you find it, let me know because I mean that would be yeah, that I mean, yeah, we would want to know if he's
Mhm.
commemorated as a prophet, and we want to know if he has his own icon, and so that would be something important, I would think. So I
Yeah,
don't think it's needed. I think that we can prove quite well from the text that he is writing like a prophet. But it would be interesting to see that the church actually has that tradition too, like officially. So that would be interesting. So
right, right, right.
maybe you should look for Tobias. Maybe you're looking for the wrong name. Maybe if you look at Tobias, because sometimes you know his name is
Tobias
sometimes
is
like
another
that.
guy because
Tobias is another guy.
there's a Tobias of Jerusalem, a Saint Tobias of Jerusalem, but it's not the same. Um, it's not the same guy apparently. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if you find it, let me know. So let's see what are the differences here in verse 2.
Okay.
So os echmaletev, os echmalotev tevte. So those are
Mm.
the same. In tes emeres. So
Hmm.
tes is added, but that's just the word for the. So in the
Yeah.
days of Enemisaros, who is the king of the Assyrians out of
Mm.
these days,
Hmm.
which is out of the right of Kudios of Nephthalim. And okay, here's a difference. In so it says in the Galilee, but
Hmm.
this is into the above the Galilee. So I need to actually put this in blue too.
So is
Into
it
the above the
Upper
Galilee.
Galilee?
Yeah, Upper Galilee. Yeah,
Mm.
Upper Galilee.
It's more
Above
precise.
Aser. And then this whole thing here is added.
Mm.
So well, it's
Yeah.
it's omitted in G1. So this whole
Yeah.
section is omitted in G1.
Mm.
So so this is further clarification. It's even
Mm.
more specific in G2.
Mm.
So now my question is, Jimmy, where is this place? So I did look up, I did like just do a Google of like
Yeah.
Thisbe, and I think that we know where it's at. So
Mm.
um,
I heard that it's
but do you have
debated.
any? You heard it's debated. Yeah, see that
Yeah.
that's an issue. Is it seems like every time I look at a Bible map, they're all different. Like they're always
Yes.
different in terms. Like that's such a big problem. Like we need to sort that out and make our own map.
That is actually very, very annoying.
It is annoying. Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah. Um, so
well, we know that it's. I mean, it says Asher. I mean, we know
mhm,
that it's in Nephilim, and
mhm,
so I guess what we could do is we could look up like time of exile
mhm.
map of Israel, and that we could start there. We could start there.
yes, maybe, maybe. You wanna
Let's see.
look at the map now?
Well, I mean, which one? Like, there's so many, and they're all a little different. I can Google it.
Hmm.
We can look.
Yeah, yeah. You can Google it. Yeah.
So let's see. Um, Going back, share screen. Okay, so it's like take your pick. Like they're all different. Like which one do you want to look
Yeah.
at? I mean, that's the issue. It's like I don't know which one is accurate. Like
I
I guess the only way is if we go through the Bible ourselves and figure it out on our own. And
we
like
need to do archaeology
yeah, yeah, there's that too.
on
Like
our own. Yeah.
um
Mm,
see the map thing, the whole map thing is something that really bothers me
mm,
for this reason.
mm,
Because there's debates over where the cities were, there's debates over where the territory extended exactly.
mm,
It changes throughout the history, right?
mm,
Obviously, like in the 10th
mm,
century, ninth century, 8th century, down to the exile, it's going to change a little bit. Like,
mhm.
so we need a map for like every century or like for every 50 years,
That's
and
right.
we
Yeah.
and we need to do the research on our own.
That's true.
Um,
That's
so
true.
I don't know. I guess we could just pick one for now and try to figure it out. Uh, so this one's not very helpful. It doesn't show where Naphtali is.
Left.
So here's the
Uh,
12 tribes. I guess we could
yeah,
look at this one.
actually, the
This is
well,
during Joshua though. This is during the time of Joshua.
yeah, I think you should look because hold on.
Let's look at this one. This one's high quality. So
Oh,
practically
okay.
it's practically
So,
it's easy.
okay.
Uh,
Naphtali, Hazar,
so here's Naphtali. So Naphtali's up here. This is
Northern
Lake Galilee, the
Lake
Tiberias of
Galilee.
Galilee, right?
Yes, yes. Um,
Wait, is this where Tiberias is?
yeah, the
My
Lake
New
Tiber.
Testament geography is confusing me. Tiberias is a city, right? And it's next to the Lake of Galilee. Is that right? Or is
No,
it
no,
Lake
Sea of
Tiberias?
Tiberias. Sea of Tiberias is the Sea of Galilee. Is the
Oh, okay,
Dead Sea.
okay,
This
okay.
is,
This
oh,
is
no, no,
yeah.
sorry. This is the Dead Sea you're looking at.
What? That's not the Dead Sea. This is the Dead Sea.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So this is the Tiberias. Yeah, yeah, Sea of Tiberias.
Okay, so this is Sea of Tiberias. All right, so okay, well now the problem is none of these names are mentioned in Tobit 2, Tobit 1, 2. So
Yeah.
but we know Naphtali's here. So there you go.
It's
We know it's
Galilee.
here.
Galilee is the north of Galilee. Galilean. lake, Sea of Galilee. So
So what does Tobit verse 2 say again? Can you read it from the G2?
G2 G2 says that from the from Thisbe, which is to the right of Kidios, Naphthalim, in Upper Galilee, above Aser to the west, left of Fogor.
Okay, can you read the part with Asher again?
Above Aser.
Above Asher? No, it's in the so
No,
Ano.
no, that's
Ano is Ano
mm,
is the upper part. Okay, let me just see the text. So it's which is out of the right side of
above Aser.
Kudios of Nephilim in the upper part of Galilee above Asher. Yeah, above Asher.
I think it's not this Asher. There's a city in Naphtali called Aser, which is different from the tribe of Asher.
Well, you see, that's another problem. That's an ambiguity. Like, how do we know? Is it the territory Asher or is it the city Asher?
Yeah, there's a more
I didn't
detailed.
I didn't even know I didn't even know there was a city Asher. I thought there was only a territory.
Uh, uh,
I'm very unfamiliar with a lot of the like
Geographical.
topography changes.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
me
in
either.
the time of the kings and stuff. It's something that I'm just not really familiar with. Like we're gonna have to really wise up on this. Well,
Yeah,
see
yeah,
this map, I can't even see it. This map is completely pixelated. So I don't know, man. We're gonna have to come back to this one because we're gonna have to find maps that have the cities and figure it out.
yeah, yeah. Uh, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Um, I'm just trying to. I'm still stuck with the question, when is the feast day of Tobit?
This may be the kind of information we can't find in a book. Like this may be the kind of information we'd have to visit a monastery that has a more ancient standing and like ask them,
Uh,
like, hey, what is the tradition here? Like you may have to like go to some monastery and ask the monks, like, hey, what's the tradition? What have you always believed? Is Tobit a prophet? And see what they say. They may see like, oh, well, obviously, or like we have to see what they say, but it may be something you can't find in a book. Like there's a lot of stuff in Orthodoxy
um,
like this that they people just don't write about it or publish it. But I do think that if we look at one of those scholarly commentaries on Tobit, we may find something. So in
yeah,
that regard, so
that requires a very deep.
I think part of the
Uh,
problem is I guess Western scholarship doesn't really care about some of the finer points of that kind of stuff in Orthodoxy. They don't really mention that. So
no, I would just give it up for the time being. Probably, yeah, like you said, that probably is a very regional thing. Probably
yeah,
it's limited to one specific monastery or church or region or something like that.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
which in our view is enough because we
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
inclusively. We think what is the inclusive
yeah.
testimony from all the churches
Well,
combined? And
well,
so
the fresco you saw, the icon of
yeah,
prophet Tobit, that was a fresco in a church in the 15th century. So,
yeah.
and from the style, I think that's actually Greek. So I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, he does. Yeah, the style did look like some other icons of prophets that I've seen. Maybe what we could do is I could find that link again, and I could email them and say, tell me more about this. I guess we could try that. That's something we could do. Um, yeah, to find out more about
yeah,
yeah, just about that icon. If there's anything written next to it, because I didn't see any text on it. I just saw the figure. I just saw the character. So
yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah, it says the middle 16th century. It's in Cretan. Where is Cretan? This place.
it's Crete, right? Crete. Something
Cretan.
Cretan is from Crete. Yeah. So Crete is the island in the
Ah,
Mediterranean.
it's from Crete. Okay. So it's in a monastery in Crete, which okay. See that it is a very small thing that people like don't really commemorate that much. That's here but that just proves what I just said about Tobit. It is such it is such an important book. It's a prophetic book, as we've already discussed, and it's such a wonderful book, and it teaches a lot of important theological points. But it seems that
Yeah,
people has focused more on the Archangel Raphael and almost entirely ignored the figure of Tobit. And I think this is so like that's something that I think through our Bible study we should help people to raise this kind of um, awareness that actually Tobit is important. We shouldn't ignore him. We shouldn't like put him in a like a corner in the history or in this next area or something like that. He is
yeah,
an important figure in the for the. I think even you have Susanna as a saint from Susanna in Daniel.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Well, yeah, yeah. I'm definitely more convinced now as well that he is a prophet, and that's definitely the biblical understanding.
yeah,
But I guess that's just kind of, yeah. I guess it's what you said. It's just he's kind of neglected, or he's kind of just not really focused on very much.
yeah,
He's kind of in the background. And maybe that's why he's just not. It's not that they reject. It's not that they don't see him as a prophet. It's just they just don't really focus on him very much.
yes,
It's probably
yes,
something like this. Yeah. So,
yeah. You see, yeah,
well, I think
I
we
even
know. Yeah, go ahead.
we even have the icon of Susanna from the book of Daniel.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to find Tobit. That's just insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That makes me think that that makes me think that this book is really important. There's like a reason that it's kind of in the shadows, or
it's really
we know
apocryphal, isn't it?
it is, yeah, it's suppressed by Protestants. It's
Hmm.
suppressed, well, of course, it's suppressed by the world.
All right.
It's oppressed by the world. It's oppressed by Protestants. Even in Orthodoxy, it's obscure. They don't even have
Neglected. Yeah,
most,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they don't even have the official recognition feast days for him.
Mm.
It does make me think there's something special about this book.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the fact that it's one of the books we have copies from the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have two
Hmm.
versions of it.
Yeah.
It does make me think there's something special. You know, like the reason a book would be summarized, like why do
Mm.
we have two versions? Like one reason a book could be
Mm.
summarized is because they wanted to, some group really wanted to
Mm.
preserve it, and they saw that people weren't, they were worried it might not be preserved, and so they
Hmm.
wanted to preserve it, so they summarized it to make it easier to copy. That's
Yeah.
one reason. Now, Tobit isn't very long, to be fair, but
Right.
any copying endeavor of any biblical book is an endeavor, because
That's
it's
right.
not just the amount of words. They have to think about the ruling, the manuscript, creating the manuscript, making it look good,
Yeah.
all this stuff. Like, so there's a bunch of stuff that goes into it, even though Tobit is a somewhat short book.
Mm.
So I can kind of see the picture that kind of emerges for me is Tobit is it truly is apocryphal. Yeah, it's like like if you're wise enough to see the significance of it,
Mm.
it does have significance, but apparently that is not always seen
Mm.
by the majority. I think maybe so.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's kind of hidden. Yeah.
yeah, it is kind of hidden.
If
Yeah.
something's hidden, that means you can only find it in monasteries.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you know, yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, our knowledge could be incomplete. I mean, who knows? Like, there's probably a lot of traditions and a lot of stuff we don't know because it's just not available
Yeah.
in Western scholarship that they're doing in monasteries in the East and in
Yeah.
Greece and stuff. Like, there's probably a
Yeah.
lot of stuff we just don't know. We just don't have
That's
access
right.
to. Anyways, I
Mm.
think we know what we need to do for next time. What we need to do before we continue, if we can, or try to at least, is to
Mm.
sort out the genealogy and the code,
Mm.
and then also to figure out if we can see if we can figure out where exactly these places are. Like, where
Yeah.
is Thesbe? I tried Googling Thesbe, and I can't really find anything about it. We need to figure out exactly where these places are if we can, and yeah,
Yeah.
sort that out for verse 2. We may
Yeah.
not be able to. Like, the best we may
Sure.
just be able to see
Yeah.
Naphtali, and that's it.
Hmm. All right. Let me continue with the names of the place and people here. In my notes
Oh,
here.
you have some more notes? Okay, yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
yes. So more importantly, the name of Enemisaros is significant. So we've discussed this name last time. In our introduction, it's Shalmaneser in Assyrian. So the Assyrian form of the name means the friendly one is the foremost, or well-being is the foremost, or Anu's favor is the foremost. The friendly one is a manifestation of Assyrian deity Ashur, uh, while Anu is an ancient Babylonian deity. If this is the case, the name would be an exaltation of the pagan deity. If the name is indeed suggesting well being, it would most likely be a name that blesses the king, like those regnal names in ancient China. Here is probably an ancient scribal mistake that has been handed down to us. Enemasaros could be originally Zenemasaros, starting with sigma, but because the previous word ends with sigma, our ancient scribe could have dropped the sigma from an earlier period that is no longer traceable. Nevertheless, what's more important is that in this spelling, two consonants, nu and mu, are reversed. Spellings matter to the message conveyed by the author. The author spelled it in such a strange yet notable way so that people will take notice of his comment on the name, on the person. He is saying that the Assyrian king has reversed the created order by destroying and deporting the Israelites, just like his name is spelled reversed. So here's the true thing. In his name, two syllables are reversed according to the Assyrian attestation. The reverse of the name showing the reverse or the unnatural or counternatural essence of that character of that person. First of all, that person switched the glory of God to the glory of a pagan deity, and secondly, he deported, destroyed Israel. Although it was God's punishment that Israel should be deported, should be in exile, but by
Is
doing
this an
this,
original thought?
yes, yes,
Okay. So
yes,
you think that the Greek translator switched, reversed the syllables in his name
yeah,
to communicate something about his character?
right, yes,
Mm.
yes. Compared to the Assyrian spelling.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
Mm.
I see the word nemes.
Yeah.
Nemes. Isn't nemesis? Is this a Greek word?
Uh,
Nemesis?
Nemesis?
Let
I
me
don't know.
hang on. Let me check that. Maybe there's like maybe that's intentional.
Mm.
Nemes, Nemesia, Nemesis. Let's see. Is there
Mm.
Nemesis? Nemesis.
Yeah.
Um,
What is, yeah.
distribution of what is due, but in
Mm.
usage always retribution, especially righteous anger aroused by injustice.
Uh,
Maybe this isn't what I was thinking.
uh,
um, divine retribution.
mm.
Um, divine retribution. I
So
see
does it,
Nimis. I see
yeah.
Nimis in the name, but maybe I'm just yeah. Maybe that's the
It could
coincidence.
signify also, the spelling could also well, I said that the zeta is sort of dropped. No, the sigma was dropped. There's probably is a sigma before the
Well, that's speculative. I mean,
right.
that's speculative.
That's not the point. The point is that um the uh, the point is that the Assyrian spelling has the m's the M sound before the N sound. So the two consonants are
Yeah.
switched.
Do you know of any other like scholarly source that suggests this, or of any other place this could be?
I
Because I
haven't
think that you
checked it
have a
yet.
good thought there, and I think you have a good thought, and I
Yeah.
feel like this is something somebody else probably would have said somewhere.
It
So
could be. I haven't checked any resources yet. I'm just doing my reflection here.
yeah, yeah, it's a definitely a good reflection.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more that I think that there's probably somebody else who said, I feel like there's somebody else who said something like this. So yeah, we need
Yeah.
to do some more digging on that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Well,
to back that up. But it's a good idea for sure.
yeah. I think someone said something similar on other occasions on other things, but I just applied to that principle here. I see the point here. So um so and okay, continue. Tobit comes from the region of Tisbe, which reminds the reader of the prophet Elijah, who is from the same place. See First Kingdoms chapter 17, verse 1. Again, this makes the connection between Tobit and the prophets, showing that Tobit is a son of prophets as well as a prophetic nature of this book. Tobit also mentions the location of the city of Tisbe. So everything that is
That's
like,
true. That's such a good point. That's
yeah,
such a good connection. It's not just his genealogy, but his location suggests a connection.
yeah, yeah. So everything said after the word Thisbe is about where Thisbe is, which is
Yeah, yeah.
something that people just can't find. Well, I think probably people don't find it because they don't take this book seriously. uh,
Well, I mean, also like we need to know like where all these places are. Like we
that's
need to
right.
know. So basically, to know where Thisbis is, or
Mm,
Thisbe is, you need to know where Kudios is. You need to know where
yeah.
Aser, if that's the city or the district. You need to know where Fogor is. And this is like the most obscure name I've ever seen. Fogor. Like, do you know? Do we
You
know
know.
where Fogor is? Is Fogor mentioned elsewhere in the Bible?
You can search in on logos.
Yeah, I can, can't I? It does. It looks like it is.
Numbers 23, 28 means uh, well,
It's not in my Septuagint lexicon.
uh,
So, yeah.
for-
Um,
uh,
I could try a different search. I could try searching like this. It says there's one result. So this specific spelling is not anywhere else in the Septuagint.
mhm.
Um, let me try again. Let's try like this.
Tobit, so
Yeah, it's just in Tobit. It's just in Tobit.
mm,
Well, hang on, hang on. Am I searching the right book? Maybe I'm not searching the right book. One sec. Let's try Logos Septuagint. Okay, yeah, it's in Genesis, it's in Numbers, it's in Deuteronomy, it's in
yeah,
Joshua and Chronicles. So,
I thought
yeah,
so.
I guess we'll just have to go down the rabbit trail of studying all these references to figure out where Kudios and Fogor are. Once you figure out those two, then you can find Thisbe.
Mm. That's interesting.
So if the Pentateuch, Joshua, and Chronicles tell us where Fogor is, that would be a helpful piece to the
So
puzzle.
here's
And then,
that's a very interesting. So you know what Fogor is? Fogor is where Balaam cursed Israel.
oh, yeah, I see that here, Numbers 23.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing, isn't it?
that is interesting.
Yeah. So can you what is it? It says that left of Fogor.
Fogor is Peor. Fogor is
Or
Peor.
yeah, yeah,
Peor. So
Fogor.
Peor. Peor is Fogor.
Yeah,
Okay. So that helps.
yeah.
Hang on. Sometimes Halot will tell you where stuff is. So let me check Halot. Maybe Halot will tell us.
Huh, okay.
I think this is the one. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay, yes, Septuagint Fulgor. So let me zoom in on this. So
Mm.
Halot says
Name of
uh,
deity. Mm.
as the name of a place on the location, see wolf. So we'll have to look at some of these scholarly
Mm.
resources. Yeah, about 20 kilometers east of the northern end of the Dead Sea.
What?
Uh, that's one possibility, apparently.
Uh,
The modern equals the modern Ayun Musa, or it could be the this whatever however you say this.
no idea.
So yeah, we'll just have to like we'll have to do the research here, like look
Mm.
up these places, look up these scholarly
Mm.
resources, figure out where Fogor and the key is Fogor and Kulios. These are the keys, I think.
Mm. Kyrios is Kaddish.
Kadesh.
Yes.
Okay, I think
You
we know
saw, you
Kadesh.
actually saw that with on the map.
Yeah, yeah, I think we know where Kadesh is. It's
Yeah.
just Fogor. We need to
Yeah.
figure out Fogor, and then Thisbe is.
Also Aser. Aser is, I don't know where exactly Aser is.
I don't know if this is talking about the tribe or the city. See,
I
that's
don't,
another ambiguity.
I think it's the city, not the tribe.
Yeah, well, we'll have to. So Thisbe, which is the right side of Kadesh of
Mm.
Nephthalim, in the upper part of Galilee above Aser,
Mm.
after, which is behind the west, behind the setting of the sun, behind the path of behind the west,
Mm-hmm.
out of the from the left of Fogor.
Mm.
What is the? How does Nets translate this last phrase?
Last phrase,
Yeah, of yeah. How does it
above
translate this?
Asher to the west, left of Fogor.
Okay, above Asher to the west, left of Fogor. See, that's very specific.
Yeah,
Um, so as long as we know where these places are, we could figure it out.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
Um,
check some commentaries too between now and next time.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let me continue. Um, so Tobit also mentioned the location of city Tisbe. It's on the right side of Kadesh. Kadesh is an important city. In Judges 4:6, the city was given to the tribe of Naphtali, and it was signed to the Levites and became a city of refuge. It was also the city where the general Barak gathered forces to fight against Sisera in Judges 4:9 through 11. The Maccabees also fought an important battle with Demetrius in 1st Maccabees 11:63-73. The mention of city gives not only the location of Tisbe, but also some spiritual significance. First, Tobit's hometown is close to a Levitical town. This signifies his closeness to the priests of God and consequently to the worship of the true God. Then Tobit's hometown is close to a refuge city, but ironically was first fallen under the Assyrian invasion. In 4th Kingdoms 1529, it mentions that it's one of the first cities that was fallen. For the Israelites doesn't take a refuge in God, they were captured by their enemies. Yet the stories of battlefield concerning Kadesh also remind us that there is constant spiritual warfare. Tobit, close to the hotspot of spiritual warfare, has also been fighting the good fight to take refuge in God, which will be unfolded through the story of the text in the book of Tobit. Another place is mentioned is the land of Asher. This land, okay, in my meditation, in my reflection, I said this Asher is the tribe of Asher, but I think it can be the city of Asher. This land is designated to the tribe of Asher. Asher means be happy, be blessed. By mentioning of Asher, Tobit is telling us the fruit of spiritual warfare. It is blessing. Although Tobit's family was taken away from the center of the spiritual warfare in their homeland, they didn't stop fighting this war against demonic powers and practice the law in a foreign land. Once they were in the battlefield, the hotspot of a spiritual warfare. Now they are in the enemy camp, being captured to live in a demonic place. Whether they are in the hotspot of fighting against demons or they are in the enemy camp, they don't stop fighting. For although they are physically in the enemy camp, they are indeed close to the protection of God because they took refuge in God. They are at the right side of God's protection. Therefore, they shall be brought into a place of condition of blessings. For Galilee means district. So Galilee
Hmm.
means district. It's they're in the position, they are in the place of the right of in the place of protection, basically on the on the right side is on the right side on the upper side. What did I say here? Hold on. Oh gosh, it's so long. Yeah, in the region above God's protection. That's the idea. In the place in the region above God's protection. And I think on the right side of on the right side of um um hold on. I'm looking at where's the right side? On the right side of Kadesh, on the right side of the battlefield, and on the left side of, of the place where Balaam cursed Israel. I think this location, mentioning these two names, are sort of uh, spiritually significant because it is telling you that where is the right position of protection is. Like, look at the text itself. It first mentions the right side of Kadesh. Last, it mentions last on the left side of Fogor. So in between is the place where you are raised above, raised upon the place that is in the protection, in the protection of God, in the refuge
There
of
is a
God.
kind of meaning like that there, isn't there?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
can see that.
So
Yeah,
you
there.
see the
Mm.
arrangement of arrangement of the place of the text and the way it describes it, and he chooses specific locations, specific places that reminds people of specific incidents or events happen in the history. People realizes that we are supposed to be in the spiritual warfare, and on the right side of spiritual warfare, meaning that we are like at the hot spot of the spiritual warfare. We are fighting a good fight, and while we are fighting, how we fight by taking refuge in God, by obeying His commandments. And that way, we will be on the left side of the curse. That is to say, we will be, the curse will leave us. So I think that the spiritual message is contained in this like description of the location, and that is where like this kind of location of refuge is the seat of prophecy. It's where God you can hear God's oracle. It's where you can hear God's words because like
Okay, so
yeah.
what does Thesba mean again?
Tisbe is the place where Elijah comes from.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
I didn't check that.
Okay, so we just know it's the place where Elijah is from.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and then Kurios is Kadesh, which means holy, right? This is the word
Kiddush,
for,
yeah. Kiddush, yeah.
and then Fogor. So Aser is happy, and then Fogor is what? What does Fogor mean?
Fogo, I don't know what Fogo means, but Fogo is the place where Balaam cursed Israel. It seems that in the Hebrew Bible, Fogor is always connected to paganism.
Hmm.
In Joshua, even though the curse of Balaam happened happened in the book of Numbers, but
Yeah.
Joshua mentioned it again. And that is not just the place where Balaam cursed Israel. That was also the place where Israel committed adultery. Uh, idolatry. idolatry, idolatry. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's always connected to this. So Joshua 20:22-17 says, "Have we not had enough of sin at Fogor, from which even yet we have not cleansed ourselves, and for which a plague came upon the congregation of the Lord." So you see, this is a very significant place, a very significant uh, uh, um, historical event, a shameful historical event in the memory of Israelites. For Gore, sometimes you also have the name Baal for Gore. Baal, Peor. Peor is for Gore in Hebrew. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's the or Beth Peor. So it seems that it seems that it's closely connected to Canaanite paganism.
That is interesting. You bring up about the word left here because aristeron, this is the word for left that has the bad connotation attached
Yeah,
to it.
yeah,
So yeah, that is very interesting as indeed. Right. Okay.
yeah,
So Thisbe is between holy and the place where there is a cursing of
yeah,
Israel,
yeah.
and it's also below happiness.
Yes, below
Is that right?
happiness. Yeah, but it's also above also above
Wait, no, it's above
yeah. Oh
happiness,
right, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right, yeah.
it's in the upper part of Galilee. Which what is Galilee again?
Region, district.
Region.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it just means region.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It just
Okay.
district.
Um. Okay. So Thisbe is above happiness
Yeah,
between holy and the place where Balaam cursed Israel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it is very important to like kind of like yeah, it's between holiness and curse, or between holiness and sin on one
Yeah.
hand, and the other hand is between fighting the good fight and conform yourself to the world. Like these two ways, like you need to choose.
Yeah.
Right. With the one
Yeah.
on the right side of the Kaddish, that means you need to choose that and be happy in God's place,
Yeah. Yeah.
God's region. Right.
Yeah. There's something special about the location in terms of right and left too, because you want
Yeah.
to be on the right side. The right side is the good side
Yeah.
in the ancient Hebrew Greek understanding. But the aristoron,
Mm.
the left sides, that has a bad omen, a bad connotation associated
Yeah.
with it. And so the language,
Yeah.
even in the Greek,
Mm.
it's interesting because this was originally written in Hebrew, but the
Mm.
language, even in the Greek, really brings out the translators knew something. They really
Yeah.
brought out they could have said evonumon, but they said
Yeah.
aristoron, and
Yeah.
that really is something. So man,
Yeah.
that was great. Hey, you should send your notes to me, and I'll do my research. I'll do my part on the lexical stuff, and I'll
Mhm.
add in the meaning of the words and sort it out and everything. And who knows, we
Yeah.
could even make this into a little book on Tobit.
Eventually it
Like,
will. Yeah, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah. So,
let's start
yeah,
from the video first.
yeah. Send me your notes, and
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
continue the research and sort it
Okay.
all out. So,
Okay. Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
well, I think we covered a lot today on we spent a
Yes.
good what 1 to 2 hours on verses 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, good discussion today. Next
Yeah.
time, yeah, hopefully between now and next time we can do some more research and really sort out the things we
Mm.
lacked on in verses 1 and 2, and then we'll continue as well with verse 3 and see how far we get.
Yeah.
So verse 3 is a
Yeah.
pretty long verse. We may spend two
Yes.
hours on this one too. So
Yeah. But
yeah,
we
who
find
knows?
so many wonderful things in the first two verses.
Yeah,
Just
man.
just goes
Yeah.
to
Like
show how
I
important this book is.
yeah, it is important. Yeah, yeah, there's something really I don't know how to say that. There's something really interesting about why this book is so obscure. And
Mm.
there's something really interesting in about what we talked about just now in these first two verses about how prophetic Tobit is.
Yeah.
So something to really think about, yeah, and consider.